kind of Trinidad and Tobago will emerge. And that is why, alongside the priority of getting on with building schools that we built some, still have some more to build, building hospitals, hiring new people, alongside that, there is the priority of ensuring that the revenue stream of the country is secure. And the scale at which we have been incurring expense to give us the quality of life that we have become accustomed to requires a certain scale of revenue. We have been fortunate that we have been getting that revenue from the hydrocarbon sector, the oil and gas. At one point it was only oil, then it became oil and gas, now it's largely gas. But in the last few years, the same time I discovered that the Central Bloc was condemned, and therefore priority number one is to replace the Central Bloc before it fall down on the patients and fall down on the nation. We had to give priority close to number one, if not above number one, the actions that we have to take to ensure that the revenues to the country are available and sustainable to meet the bills that we are incurring. And that is why the government that I have led, with Minister Young in the Office of the Prime Minister, we focused on securing a revenue stream that is satisfactory to meet the needs of the country that we have established already or we are committing to establish. Thankfully, so far we have been successful. We have been successful in renegotiating the arrangements by which we earn from the sales of LNG plants. You would have seen that we had to shut down Train 1, which is where the government had a shareholding, and that is because our gas production has fallen. Some people had told us that it has fallen because it was maintenance, and as soon as maintenance was over, it will come back up to 4. That person is playing with my mic. We were told that, but then we had to face reality. It has nothing to do with maintenance. Maintenance is going on all the time. It has to do with we are draining out our reserves from our fields, and it's something that doesn't grow after you remove it. It just becomes less and less and less available. And we have not found within our border any significant replacement in parallel with the consumption that we make every day. Think about it. At the end of our earnings, we were using 4.2 billion cubic feet of natural gas per day. Now, with the best effort, hard effort, we're struggling to make 2.6 billion cubic feet per day. That's the difference. But we have been able to renegotiate the scale of earning. So we have maintained a certain level of earnings from the lower volume, but that is not a guarantee that that will be so, because these markets go up and down all the time. And also we have been able to give priority to restructuring the LNG business in the country. Never done anywhere else in the world, where having not got any shareholding in Trains 2 and Trains 3, we were able to persuade the multinationals to change the arrangements, having lost Train 1, where today we move into a situation where the government's priority of getting strengthened revenues, we are now the owners of shareholding in Trains 2 and Trains 3, as well as what we had in Trains 4, 10% across the board. That guarantees a revenue stream. Without it, we would have been in significant difficulty going forward to pay for what we have committed and to pay for what we already owe. And of course, only today, I'm looking at the newspapers and I'm seeing a parliamentary colleague of mine literally jumping up and down, trying to convince the world the Dragon project. He's interfering with the mic again. That the Dragon gas project is finally being admitted by the government to have failed. I really want to think that, when you go to a game and you want the team to win, what do? You cheer for the team, right? The batsman hasn't made runs for quite some time. He's going out to bat. Thank you very much. You're cheering and giving him some mental support that today will be the day when the runs will come. So I'm asking the rest of you to send your telepathic power to overcome this negative nonsense about the failure of the Dragon deal. Because what we have been able to accomplish there, if I may say so myself, is a marvelous surprise to many people. Because our gas within our border is running out. What will happen to Point Lisas, where we now depend so much on the activity of Point Lisas for our major revenue stream? What happens when the gas runs out? And it wouldn't run out in 8 years, you know. It will be running out along the way until by the 8th year or the 9th year, it's gone. But between now and then, as it gets less and less and less, the problem of insufficient gas equaling insufficient revenue, equaling not being able to pay for what you already owe or to do what you want to do, that is the calamity we'll be facing. This is a country where in our national budget of $60 billion, $6 billion is cash handed out to people who have no other income. That's what's going to happen. This is the country where people have become accustomed to the government carrying their own bills through subsidies for water, electricity, medical care, education. So if you don't have a proper revenue stream, the sustenance of that. And for those who believe that you could go to the IMF and get money there, that's true. But you get the IMF money on conditions. And the first conditions laid down for you to get IMF money when you can't pay your bills is to remove the government support for the population that we call subsidies. Free education, free health in every hospital, MRI for free, CAT scan for free, nurses for free, doctor for free. Ladies and gentlemen, we take too much for granted in this country. That is why we could have people in this country wanting to celebrate the failure of the Dragon deal. But I could tell you, they wouldn't have any problem. They stashed away enough. So you who haven't stashed away anything, it is your condition that they're laughing at. But I can tell you, to get the Venezuelan government to agree to have Trinidad and Tobago have a license to extract gas in a proven Venezuelan gas field is something that this country should acknowledge and celebrate. And of course, we got that during a time when the geopolitics is such that the United States and other countries, which shall remain nameless, are setting new parameters and new terms of trade. And sanctions by one country against another country could have the effect of destroying our economy. We're not involved in it. But it could destroy everything that we represent and that we hope for. And it takes a lot of good leadership to navigate between these grinding gears, to come away in an era of sanctions by the United States against Venezuela with an OFAC license from the Office of Foreign Asset Control, where Trinidad and Tobago has, in fact, the license to operate without the sanctions. And we simply have to have a commitment and to earn the respect of those we do business with to ensure that we move from talk to walking the outcome, because the future of our country depends on it. If you see us losing that OFAC license, as you will see in the news if it happens, then you know you're cook. If you see the Venezuelans not allowing us to use the Dragon field, then you know that we are in difficulty. And of course, what we have been able to do as well, where there are fields as they exist now, shared by Venezuela and Trinidad and Tobago, And we have not been able to extract any gas there for 20 years because we have been pursuing the normal legal way of doing that through unitization, where both countries have to do it together or agree on how it has to be done. We have been able in a short time to get the Venezuelans to agree to allow us, Venezuela and Trinidad and Tobago, to cancel that approach and to let Trinidad and Tobago go into the field and extract its portion. And that's what's happening right now with Shell moving exorably towards extracting gas from Manatee, which is the largest volume of gas that we would have had coming into our reserves for the longest while. So if you see in the news any of these things going south and sour, do not join other people and jump up to celebrate it. Because you know what's going to happen there? Our revenue stream, doesn't matter what else we do, but our revenue stream on the scale that is required to pay teachers, to pay nurses, to pay doctors, to build hospitals, to pay MPs, to pay who? The requirement for a revenue stream, if what we have done in the last 7 years was not done, let me ask you something. Where would Trinidad and Tobago be today if those initiatives had not been successful? So we can hold out to you today the promise of a continuation of good revenues from gas in particular, from within our border as well as from across the border. I want you to reflect on that, because in the absence of that, we have to have an alternative. And the alternative cannot be that it will appear if a different person is there. Tell me what the alternative is. The alternative is that we'll have to cut our suit to suit our cloth. And we have been wearing some very fine suits. We have been operating deficit budgets for quite some time, meaning because we have the potential to repay, we have been doing things in advance of our earnings by borrowing, like your house mortgage. You don't wait until you retire to take a mortgage to buy a house. You take a mortgage, and as you earn, but if you lose your job and you lose your revenues, then your mortgage could now cost you what you can't pay, and then the outcome could be you lose your house. It's as simple as that. That's the best example I can give you. But we as a people need to appreciate what we are accomplishing and how much we are sacrificing for it. And that will put us on track to know what we have to do, not as a government or as a minister or as a prime minister, but as a people. Because all that we do in putting these facilities in place, they are not for any government or any prime minister or for any minister or any particular person, because we subscribe to the fact that whatever we have in this country, every creed and race must find an equal place. And those are the discussions that should be had in Trinidad and Tobago, but unfortunately, they are the ones that are absent from our daily conversations. But I am confident that we are on a solid foundation. I am confident that this building, to be populated by some of the best professional healthcare deliverers, encouraged by the academic strength of UWI, and supported by the people of Trinidad and Tobago who are to be the beneficiaries, we will move from strength to strength so that we can see a new hospital as a guarantee of improvement in healthcare delivery. But that guarantee will only be assured if we take on the responsibility where each of us do what is required to be done. There's work for the government, there's work for the public service, there's work for the professional team, and when you come in here to use it, all I can say to you, appreciate it and say at least you are in a country that prioritizes healthcare and you are the beneficiary of that national prioritization. Thank you very much, and we look forward to our future.